Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he walked through the thick forest of Theta 7. The planet was beautiful but strange. Giant trees with glowing leaves surrounded him on all sides. The air smelled sweet, like flowers mixed with something he couldn't quite name. He had been walking for 2 hours now, checking the area around the human colony and taking notes about the plants and animals he found. Jake was a scientist who studied alien life. He was also in charge of supplies for the colony. Back on Earth, he had worked with animals at a research center. He loved all creatures, big and small. That was before the accident that took his wife and daughter away from him. After that terrible day, Jake wanted to leave Earth behind. He volunteered to come to this frontier planet, hoping the stars would help him forget his pain. The colony on Theta 7 was small. Only 200 people lived there. They called their settlement Colony Outpost Meridian. It sat at the edge of the wilderness where the forest met the open plains. The colonists were trying to build a new life on this alien world. But things were not easy. Their supply ships were late. Equipment kept breaking down. Everyone was worried, but they kept working hard. Jake stopped walking when he heard a sound. It was faint, like a small animal crying. He turned his head and listened carefully. There it was again, a high-pitched chirping sound full of fear and pain. Jake felt his heart beat faster. He knew he should probably ignore it and keep walking. The colony had strict rules about not touching the native animals. But Jake couldn't help himself. He had always been the kind of person who stopped to help. He followed the sound down a steep slope. His boots slipped on the loose rocks. He grabbed onto branches to keep from falling. The chirping got louder as he climbed down into a small ravine. Then he saw it. A small creature was trapped under several fallen branches. The animal was about the size of a house cat, but it looked nothing like any Earth animal. It had sleek fur that was dark blue, almost black. Silver patterns covered its body, and these patterns seemed to glow with a soft light. The creature had 6 legs instead of 4. Each leg ended in small paws with claws that looked very sharp. But what caught Jake's attention most were the creature's eyes. They were large and golden like pools of amber. Those eyes looked right at him, and Jake could see intelligence in them. This was not just a simple animal. This creature was smart. It was scared too. Jake could see that clearly. The little animal tried to move but couldn't. One of its back legs was caught under a heavy branch. It chirped again, softer this time, as if it was too tired to cry loudly anymore. Jake looked around to make sure no bigger animals were nearby. Then he carefully moved closer. He spoke in a gentle voice, the same voice he used to use with frightened animals back on Earth. "Hey there, little one. I'm going to help you. Just stay calm." The creature watched him with those intelligent golden eyes. It stopped struggling and seemed to understand that Jake was trying to help. Jake knelt down and began lifting the branches one by one. Some were heavier than they looked. He had to use all his strength to move them. Finally, he lifted the last branch and the creature's leg was free. The small animal tried to stand but fell over. It was too weak. Jake could see that it was very thin. Its ribs showed through its beautiful fur. This creature was starving. Jake sat back on his heels and thought for a moment. He knew he should leave now. He had already broken the rules by helping it. But looking at those golden eyes, he couldn't just walk away. He reached into his backpack and pulled out a protein bar. It was his lunch, but he could eat later. He unwrapped the bar and broke off a small piece. He held it out to the creature. At first, the animal just stared at the food. Then its nose twitched. It smelled the protein bar and suddenly moved forward, snatching the piece from Jake's hand. It ate so fast that Jake worried it might choke. He broke off another piece and another until the whole protein bar was gone. The creature looked at him, and Jake swore he could see gratitude in those eyes. He pulled out his water canteen and poured some water into his hand. The creature lapped it up eagerly. When it finished drinking, the small animal sat down and looked at Jake for a long moment. Then it made a soft chirping sound, different from the frightened cries before. This sound was gentle, almost like a purr. The creature's silver markings pulsed with light. Then, moving slowly because of its injured leg, it limped away into the forest. It looked back once as if to say goodbye before disappearing into the glowing trees. Jake stood up and brushed dirt off his pants. He felt good about what he had done, even though he knew he would probably get in trouble for it. When Jake got back to the colony, he went straight to Commander Lisa Hayes. She was the leader of the settlement, a strong woman with short gray hair and sharp eyes. Jake told her everything that had happened. Commander Hayes was not happy. She stood up from her desk and looked at Jake with a serious expression. Jake, you know the rules. We don't touch the native animals. We don't know what diseases they might carry. We don't know if they're dangerous. And most importantly, we don't know what their parents might be like. I know, Commander, Jake said, but I couldn't leave it to die. Your kindness might have put this entire colony at risk, she said. What if that creature's family comes looking for it? What if they think we hurt it? We barely have enough power to run our shields. We can't defend against large predators. Derek Cole, the head of security, was also in the room. He was a big man with a scar across his cheek. He crossed his arms and frowned. We've seen tracks out there, Derek said. Big tracks. Something huge lives in those forests. If you've attracted attention to us, Morrison, we're in serious trouble. Jake felt bad, but he still believed he had done the right thing. That creature had been dying. He had saved its life. How could that be wrong? I understand, Jake said quietly. I'm sorry. It won't happen again. Commander Hayes sighed. Just be more careful, Jake. I know you have a good heart. But out here, good intentions can get people killed. Dismissed. Jake left the commander's office feeling worried. Had he really put everyone in danger? He hoped not. He went back to his small room in the colony and tried to sleep. But he kept seeing those golden eyes and those glowing silver patterns. He wondered if the creature had made it back to its home safely. Outside, the alien sun set below the horizon. The forest began to glow with its natural bioluminescence. In the darkness between the trees, something large moved silently. Something was watching the human colony with intelligent eyes. Something was looking for a lost child. But Jake didn't know that yet. He would find out soon enough. 3 days passed since Jake found the small creature in the forest. Life at Colony Outpost Meridian continued, but problems kept growing. The power system had more failures. The lights would flicker and sometimes go completely dark for hours. The water filters were working poorly, making the water taste strange. Worst of all, the medical supplies were running very low. Several colonists had gotten sick from the planet's radiation. Dr. Helen Carter, the colony's chief scientist, was worried about them. Everyone in the colony felt stressed. People argued more often. They were tired of waiting for supply ships that never came. They were tired of things breaking down. They missed their families back on Earth. The dream of building a new world was turning into a struggle just to survive. Jake threw himself into his work. He checked supplies every day. He fixed what he could. He tried not to think about the creature he had saved. But sometimes late at night he wondered if it was okay. He hoped its leg had healed. He hoped it had found its family. On the third night, something strange started happening. A colonist named Peter Brooks was on patrol near the fence. He came running back to the main building, breathing hard and looking scared. I saw something, Peter said. Out in the forest, eyes, huge eyes, glowing in the dark. They were watching me. Derek Cole sent a team to check, but they found nothing. Derek thought Peter was just seeing things because he was tired. But Peter wasn't the only one. The next morning, a woman named Katie Martin was collecting plant samples near the perimeter. She screamed and dropped her equipment. When people ran to help her, she pointed at the ground with a shaking hand. Look at that, she whispered. In the soft dirt, there was a footprint, but it wasn't a small footprint. It was massive, almost a meter wide. The print showed 4 toes with claws. Whatever made it was huge and heavy. Dr. Helen Carter came to look at the print. She was a smart woman with red hair tied back in a ponytail. She wore thick glasses and always carried a tablet computer. She took measurements and photos. Then she did calculations on her tablet. This print belongs to an apex predator, Helen said. Something at the top of the food chain. Based on the depth of the print and the size, I estimate this creature weighs at least 800 kilograms. Maybe more. 800 kilograms? Derek repeated. That's almost a ton. What kind of animal is that big? I don't know, Helen admitted. We haven't seen anything this large before. But whatever it is, it's been very close to our colony. The news spread fast. People were frightened. Parents kept their children inside. The night patrols doubled. Everyone started carrying weapons even though they didn't have many. The colony only had a few energy rifles and some old-fashioned guns. Commander Hayes called a meeting. She stood in front of everyone in the main hall and spoke in a calm but serious voice. I know you're all worried, she said. We have a large predator near our colony. But we've faced challenges before. We'll face this one too. Stay inside the fence. Don't go out alone. If you see anything unusual, report it immediately. We're going to be fine. But her words didn't make everyone feel better. That night, more people saw the glowing eyes in the forest. The creature, whatever it was getting bolder. Jake was working late in the agricultural dome. This was a large building with a clear roof where the colonists grew food. Rows of vegetables grew under artificial lights. The dome was warm and smelled like earth and growing things. It was Jake's favorite place in the colony. It reminded him of the greenhouse his wife used to keep. He was checking the tomato plants when he heard a familiar sound. A soft chirping noise. His heart jumped. He turned around slowly. There near the door was the small creature he had saved. The cub looked much better now. Its fur was shiny and clean. Its legs seemed to have healed. The silver patterns on its body glowed brighter than before. Those golden eyes looked at Jake with what seemed like happiness. "You came back," Jake whispered. He couldn't believe it. The creature had somehow gotten through the fence. The cub chirped again and walked toward him. It wasn't limping anymore. When it reached Jake's feet, it dropped something from its mouth. Then it looked up at him, chirped one more time, and ran out of the dome before Jake could move. Jake looked down at what the creature had left. It was a fruit, but unlike any fruit he had seen on Theta 7 before. It was round and smooth, about the size of an orange. The skin was deep purple and seemed to glow from inside with a soft blue light. It was beautiful. Jake carefully picked up the fruit and carried it to his lab. He put on gloves and began to study it. He ran tests on the juice inside. What he found amazed him. The fruit contained compounds he had never seen before. Complex molecules that his computer said could be useful for medicine. Jake's hands were shaking as he ran more tests. If he was right, this fruit could help the sick colonists. It might even cure the radiation sickness that was slowly killing them. He ran to find Dr. Helen Carter. It was past midnight, but this couldn't wait. He knocked on her door until she answered, looking sleepy and annoyed. "This better be important, Jake," she said. "It is. Look at this." He showed her the fruit and his test results. Helen's eyes went wide. She forgot about being tired. She took the fruit to her own lab and ran her own tests. An hour later, she came to find Jake. Her face was excited. "Jake, this is incredible. This fruit could save lives. Where did you get it?" Jake hesitated. Then he told her the truth. "The creature I saved. It came back tonight and brought this to me. It was a gift." Helen stared at him. "A gift? Jake, are you saying this animal understood the concept of giving gifts? That means it's not just intelligent. It's smart enough to understand gratitude and reciprocity." "I think so," Jake said. "Those eyes, Helen. When I look into them, I see a person looking back. Not a human person, but a person." Helen sat down, thinking hard. "We need to tell the commander about this." "But Jake, there's something else. I've been studying those big footprints. The pattern of the claws matches the pattern on this small creature's paws. I think they're the same species. The small one is a baby. Those big footprints belong to an adult." Jake felt cold suddenly. "The mother," he said quietly. "The mother is looking for her cub." That night, the perimeter alarms went off. The loud sirens woke everyone in the colony. People ran from their beds to the windows. On the security cameras, they could all see it clearly now. A massive creature prowled along the fence. It was 4 meters long from nose to tail. Its body was powerful and graceful, built like an enormous cat. The same dark blue fur covered it. The same silver patterns glowed on its skin. But this was no small cub. This was a fully grown predator, one of the most magnificent and terrifying things Jake had ever seen. The creature moved along the fence slowly, studying it. Its head turned, and for a moment its eyes looked directly at the camera. Those eyes were the same golden color as the cub's eyes. Jake knew without any doubt. This was the mother, and she was looking for her baby. Commander Hayes's voice came over the intercom. "Everyone to the shelters, now! This is not a drill!" People ran through the corridors. Children cried. Adults grabbed whatever they could carry. The colony went into emergency lockdown. Jake stood at a window watching the magnificent creature. She wasn't attacking the fence. She wasn't trying to break in. She was just looking, searching. A mother trying to find her lost child. Derek Cole appeared next to Jake with an energy rifle in his hands. "We need to drive it away," Derek said. "Before it decides to come through that fence?" "No," Jake said. "She's not here to attack us. She's looking for her cub." "You don't know that," Derek argued. But Jake did know. He looked at that massive creature and saw the same intelligence he had seen in the cub's eyes. He made a decision that would change everything. "I'm going out there," Jake said. "You're crazy," Derek replied. "That thing will kill you." "Maybe," Jake said. "But I don't think so. I have to try." Before anyone could stop him, Jake walked toward the airlock. Commander Hayes' voice crackled through Jake's radio as he reached the airlock. "Morrison, stand down. That's an order." Jake paused with his hand on the door controls. He looked back and saw everyone watching him through the windows. Their faces were scared. Derek was shaking his head, mouthing the word no, but Jake had made up his mind. "I'm sorry, Commander," Jake said into his radio, "but this is something I have to do. That creature isn't here to hurt us. She's a mother looking for her baby. I have to show her we mean no harm." "Jake, please," Commander Hayes said. Her voice was softer now, almost pleading. "We can't lose you." "You won't," Jake said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. "Trust me." He opened the inner door of the airlock and stepped inside. The door closed behind him with a hiss. He took a deep breath. His heart was beating so fast he could hear it in his ears. His hands were sweating. He was terrified, but he couldn't let fear stop him. Jake grabbed a backpack and filled it with food rations. Protein bars, dried fruit, some vegetables from the garden. If gifts had worked once, maybe they would work again. He slung the backpack over his shoulder. Then he opened the outer door. The night air hit him warm and sweet. The forest glowed with its natural light. Jake raised his hands above his head to show he had no weapons. He walked slowly away from the airlock and toward the fence gate. The massive creature turned to look at him. Up close, she was even more magnificent than Jake had imagined. Her muscles moved under her sleek fur like water flowing. The silver patterns on her body pulsed with light, brighter than the cub's markings. Her tail, long and powerful, swished slowly back and forth, but it was her eyes that held Jake's attention. Those golden eyes were full of intelligence and something else. Pain, worry, a mother's fear for her lost child. Jake swallowed hard. His mouth was dry. He kept his hands up and moved toward the gate. Derek had left it unlocked, probably thinking no one would be crazy enough to go through it. But Jake was exactly that crazy. He opened the gate and stepped outside the colony's protection. Now only 20 meters separated him from the giant predator. She could cross that distance in seconds if she wanted to. She could kill him before he could even scream. But she didn't attack. Instead, she lowered her head slightly and watched him. Her nostrils flared as she caught his scent. Jake could see old scars on her body, long marks across her shoulders and sides, fresh scratches on her legs. She had been in battles recently. She had been protecting her territory, her home, her family, and somewhere during those fights she had lost her cub. Jake took another step forward. Then another. He spoke in a gentle voice. "I helped your baby," he said. "Your little one was hurt and hungry. I gave food and water. I set it free. It's okay. I promise." The creature's ears twitched. Could she understand his words? Probably not. But maybe she could understand his tone, his body language. Animals back on Earth could do that. Maybe this intelligent alien could too. Jake slowly lowered one hand and reached into his backpack. The creature tensed, her muscles bunching. Jake moved very slowly, pulling out a protein bar. He unwrapped it and held it out in his palm, just like he had done with the cub. The creature took a step toward him. Then another. Jake's whole body was shaking now, but he kept his hand steady. The creature was so close now that he could feel the heat from her body. She could smell different from Earth animals, like rain and lightning and something wild. She lowered her massive head toward his hand. Her breath was hot on his palm. For a moment, Jake was sure this was how he would die. Then her tongue, rough but gentle, took the protein bar from his hand. She ate it in one bite. Her golden eyes never left his face. Jake let out a breath he didn't know he had been holding. He pulled out another protein bar and offered it. The creature took this one too. They stood like that for a moment, a man and an alien predator sharing food under the stars of a foreign world. Then a sound came from behind Jake, a familiar chirping. Jake turned his head slowly and saw the cub limping out from the shadows near the colony buildings. It must have been hiding inside the dome all this time, too scared to come out. The massive creature's entire body changed. The tension left her muscles. A sound came from deep in her chest, a rumbling that Jake felt in his bones. It wasn't a growl. It was something else, relief, joy, love. The cub ran forward on its 6 legs, crying out in its high voice. It reached its mother and pressed against her, rubbing its head under her chin. The mother bent down and nuzzled her baby, checking it all over with her nose and tongue. She licked the cub's fur and made soft sounds Jake had never heard before. It was the most beautiful thing Jake had ever seen. A mother reunited with her lost child, his own eyes filled with tears. He thought of his wife and daughter, lost to him forever. He would never hold them again. But this mother and child could be together. That was something good in a universe that often seemed cruel. The mother stopped checking her cub and turned back to Jake. She looked at him for a long moment. Then slowly she lowered her massive head in what could only be described as a bow. It was a gesture of respect, of gratitude. She understood what Jake had done. She was thanking him. Jake bowed back, lowering his head the same way. When he looked up, the mother was backing away, the cub pressed against her side. But then she stopped. She turned and walked to a nearby tree. She dug at the base with her powerful claws. Dirt flew. Then she reached into the hole she had made and pulled something out with her mouth. She walked back to Jake and dropped what she was carrying at his feet. Then she and her cub turned and disappeared into the glowing forest. Jake looked down at what she had left. Crystals. Beautiful crystals that sparkled with internal light, like stars trapped in stone. There were at least 20 of them, each the size of his fist. He picked one up. It was warm to the touch and seemed to hum with energy. Behind him, Jake heard people cheering. He turned and saw the entire colony at the windows, watching. They had seen everything. Commander Hayes came running out of the gate with Dr. Helen Carter right behind her. "Jake, are you okay?" the commander asked, grabbing his shoulders and checking him for injuries. "I'm fine," Jake said, smiling. "Better than fine. Look what she left us." Helen picked up one of the crystals. Her eyes went wide. She pulled out a small device from her pocket and held it near the crystal. The device beeped excitedly. "Jake," she said, her voice shaking. "These are energy-conductive crystals. Pure ones. Do you know what this means? These could power our entire colony for years. These are worth a fortune, but more importantly, they'll solve all our power problems." Commander Hayes looked at the crystals, then at Jake, then at the forest where the creatures had disappeared. "She understood trade," the commander said quietly. "She understood that you gave her something precious, her child. So she gave you something precious in return. Jake, these creatures aren't just animals. They're intelligent. Maybe as intelligent as we are." Jake nodded. He had known that from the moment he looked into the cub's eyes. These beings were people, just not human people. The celebration was short. Suddenly, alarms began blaring from the southern side of the colony. Different alarms. The attack warning. Derek's voice came over the radio, panicked and loud. "We have incoming. South perimeter. Multiple contacts. Big ones." Everyone ran to the southern fence. What they saw made their blood run cold. Through the darkness, dozens of creatures were moving toward the colony. These were nothing like the beautiful panthers. These were monsters. Each one was as big as a car, with thick armored shells covering their bodies. They had too many legs, like giant insects. Their heads were flat and wide with mandibles that clicked together. Their eyes glowed red in the darkness. Helen grabbed her tablet and quickly scanned through her files. Her face went pale. "Razorbacks," she whispered. "I read about them in the planetary survey. They're pack hunters, incredibly aggressive, territorial. They're attracted to energy signatures." "How many?" Commander Hayes asked. Derek was counting on the security screen. "At least 30, maybe 40. Commander, we can't fight that many. We don't have the weapons. We don't have the power for the shields." "Then we evacuate," the commander said. "Get everyone to the shuttle now." "The shuttle only holds 100 people," Derek said. "We have 200 in this colony." The horrible truth sank in. Half of them would have to stay behind. Half of them would face the Razorbacks with almost no defense. Jake looked back at the forest where the panther mother had disappeared. He thought about her scars, the fresh wounds on her body. She had been fighting these things. These Razorbacks had probably been hunting her, and she had been protecting her territory, her cub, from them. And now the Razorbacks had followed her scent to the human colony. They were coming to kill, and there was nowhere to run. The Razorbacks were getting closer. Jake could hear them now. A clicking and scraping sound as their armored bodies moved through the forest. The sound made his skin crawl. Through the security cameras, he could see them more clearly. They were nightmares made real, all sharp edges and red eyes and clicking mandibles. Commander Hayes was shouting orders. "Children and injured to the shuttle first. Everyone else, grab whatever weapons we have. We buy them as much time as we can. People were crying. Families were being torn apart as parents put their children on the evacuation list. It was chaos. It was the end of everything they had built. Derek ran to the armory and started handing out weapons. 3 energy rifles, a dozen old projectile guns, some knives. It wasn't nearly enough. Jake took a rifle even though he had never been a soldier. He had never wanted to fight. But now he had no choice. How long do we have? Commander Hayes asked. 20 minutes, Derek said, looking at his scanner. Maybe less. They're moving fast. Jake looked at the energy crystal still lying on the ground where the Panther mother had left them. An idea came to him, crazy and desperate. Helen, he called out. Those crystals. Can we use them to boost our shield power? Helen looked at the crystals, then at her tablet. Her fingers moved fast across the screen, doing calculations. Maybe? Yes, if we wire them into the power grid, we might get the shields back to full strength. But it would take at least an hour to set up properly. We don't have an hour, Derek said. Then we do it fast and hope it works, Jake said. He grabbed Marcus Webb, the colony's engineer. Can you help? Marcus was a thin man with grease permanently stained on his hands. He looked at the crystals and nodded. I can try, but I'm going to need help. And luck. Lots of luck. Take whoever you need, Commander Hayes said. The rest of us will hold the perimeter. Marcus grabbed 3 other people and they ran to the power station with arms full of crystals. Jake stayed at the fence with his rifle. Next to him stood Amy Foster, one of the colony's pilots. She held a gun that looked too big for her small frame. On Jake's other side was Ryan Chen, the medic. His hands were shaking. I'm not a fighter, Ryan said quietly. I save lives. I don't take them. Today you do both, Jake said, trying to sound brave. Today we all do what we have to do. The razorbacks reached the outer perimeter. In the bright lights of the colony, Jake could see them clearly now. They were even worse up close. Their shells were dark green and covered in spikes. Each one had 8 legs that ended in sharp points. Their mandibles could probably cut through steel. These were killing machines evolved to hunt and destroy. The first razorback charged the fence. The electric barrier crackled and sparked. The creature screamed, a horrible sound like metal scraping metal, but it kept pushing. The fence began to bend. Fire! Derek shouted. Jake pulled the trigger. His energy rifle fired a bolt of blue light that hit the razorback in its head. The creature stumbled back, but it wasn't dead. Its armor was too thick. All around him, other colonists were firing. The noise was deafening. The smell of burning and ozone filled the air. More razorbacks hit the fence. The barrier was failing. Jake could see the power meter dropping with each hit. They only had minutes before the fence went down completely. Then something impossible happened. A roar shook the night. It was so loud that Jake felt it in his chest, in his bones, in his soul. It was the sound of fury and power and ancient strength. The razorbacks stopped their attack and turned around. The Panther mother had returned. She came out of the forest like a shadow made flesh, her silver markings blazing with light. She hit the first razorback like a meteor, claws extended. The sound of her claws cutting through armor was like swords striking shields. The razorback went down. Its shell cracked open. But she was alone against 40 enemies. The razorbacks swarmed toward her. She fought with incredible speed and grace, but there were too many. Jake watched in horror as one of them got past her guard and struck her side. She roared in pain but kept fighting. We have to help her, Jake shouted. He started climbing the fence. Morrison, no! Commander Hayes yelled. But Jake was already over. He dropped to the ground outside and ran toward the battle. Behind him he heard Derek curse and then the sound of more people climbing the fence. Amy and Ryan followed. Then more colonists. They couldn't watch this magnificent creature die alone. Jake fired his rifle at a razorback that was trying to attack the Panther from behind. His shot hit its leg joint and the creature stumbled. The Panther used that moment to slash its exposed underbelly. 2 colonists working together brought down another razorback with concentrated fire, but more kept coming. The Panther mother was bleeding now. Jake could see her moving slower. She was going to die here, fighting to protect the humans who had shown kindness to her cub. The thought filled Jake with rage and sorrow. Then he saw the cub. The little one had followed its mother. It stood at the edge of the battle, watching its mother fight. Its silver markings were flashing, pulsing with light in a pattern Jake had never seen before. The cub opened its mouth and released a cry, high-pitched and urgent. It wasn't a cry of fear. It was a call. The forest answered. 3 more adult panthers emerged from the darkness. They were slightly smaller than the mother, but just as deadly. They hit the razorbacks like a storm. Now the battle changed. 4 alien panthers and 20 armed humans fought side by side against the razorback swarm. Jake found himself back to back with the panther mother. She was breathing hard, bleeding from several wounds. A razorback charged at Jake from his blind side. He didn't see it coming. But the mother did. She turned and caught the creature in midair, her jaws closing around its neck. She threw it aside and stood over Jake protectively. He had saved her cub. Now she was saving him. The battle raged on. Amy used her pilot skills to coordinate the human fighters, calling out targets. Ryan dragged wounded colonists back to safety, then returned to fight. Marcus worked frantically at the power station, trying to get the shields up. Sparks flew as he connected the crystals to the power grid. A huge razorback bigger than the others pushed through the swarm. It seemed to be the leader. It focused on the panther mother, recognizing her as the main threat. The 2 creatures circled each other. The razorback was fresh and uninjured. The mother was bleeding and tired from fighting. They charged at the same moment. The impact shook the ground. They rolled together in a tangle of claws and mandibles. The mother was strong, but the razorback's armor protected it. Its mandibles caught her shoulder and closed. The panther roared in agony. "No!" Jake screamed. He ran forward and pressed his rifle against the razorback's eye, the only unarmored spot he could see. He fired until the power cell was empty. The razorback spasmed and released the mother. It fell dead, but the mother fell too. She collapsed on the ground, breathing in short gasps. Blood pooled beneath her beautiful fur. The silver markings on her body were flickering, fading like dying stars. The other 3 panthers saw their leader fall. They fought with renewed fury, driving the remaining razorbacks back. The humans pressed the attack. The razorbacks, leaderless and facing an enemy that fought with such coordination, finally broke. They retreated into the forest, dragging their dead with them. The battle was over. The colonists had won, but the cost had been terrible. Jake dropped to his knees beside the panther mother. Her golden eyes looked at him, still intelligent, still aware. The cub ran to her side, crying out in distress. It nuzzled her face, trying to wake her up. Ryan Chen came running with his medical kit. "Move," he said to Jake. "Let me work." Ryan's hands moved quickly, checking wounds, stopping bleeding. But Jake could see the truth in Ryan's face. There were too many injuries. Too much blood lost. The mother's breathing was getting slower. Her eyes started to close. The cub cried louder, a heartbreaking sound of loss and fear. It was watching its mother die, and there was nothing anyone could do. Then Marcus's voice came over the radio. "Shields are up. Full power." The crystals worked, but Jake didn't care about shields anymore. He only cared about the dying creature at his feet, the mother who had saved them all. Ryan Chen worked through the night. His hands were covered in blue blood that looked black in the dim light. He had never treated an alien before. He didn't know if human medicine would even work, but he had to try. Jake knelt beside the panther mother, one hand on her head. Her fur was soft under his fingers. The cub pressed against her other side, making soft crying sounds. The 3 other adult panthers stood in a circle around them, watching silently. They didn't threaten the humans. They seemed to understand that Ryan was trying to help. "Talk to me, Ryan," Jake said quietly. "Can you save her?" Ryan didn't look up from his work. He was sealing a deep wound on her shoulder with surgical foam. "I don't know. Her biology is different from ours, but not completely alien. She has a heart, lungs, blood. The basics are the same, but she's lost so much blood, Jake. I don't know if she can survive this." Dr. Helen Carter came running with her medical scanner and her tablet. She quickly scanned the panther mother's body. Data scrolled across her screen. "Her blood pressure is dangerously low," Helen said, "and her body temperature is dropping. She's going into shock. Can we give her a transfusion?" Jake asked desperately. "From who?" Helen replied. "We don't know her blood type. We don't even know if transfusion would work. It might kill her faster." Jake felt helpless. He had saved the cub only to watch the mother die. It wasn't fair. The universe was cruel and random, and nothing good lasted. Then Helen gasped. She was staring at her tablet with wide eyes. "The fruit," she said. "Jake, the fruit the cub brought you. Remember, it had those healing compounds. What if we use it?" "We used all of it for tests," Jake said, his heart sinking. "No," Helen said, shaking her head. There's still some juice in the sample containers. It's not much, but it might help. It's her species' fruit. Maybe it will work on her. She ran back to her lab. 2 minutes felt like 2 hours. When she returned, she carried a small vial of glowing purple liquid. It was all that remained of the fruit. Ryan looked at the vial, then at the dying panther. This is experimental. It could kill her. Or it could save her. We have no way to know. She's dying anyway, Jake said. We have to try, Ryan nodded. He carefully injected the liquid into the panther's bloodstream. Then they waited. For a long minute, nothing happened. The mother's breathing got slower and slower. The light in her silver markings dimmed to almost nothing. The cub's cries became desperate. Then slowly, something changed. The silver markings began to glow brighter. The mother's breathing steadied. Her eyes opened slightly. The fruit's healing properties were working on her own biology much better than on humans. Her blood pressure is rising, Helen said, watching her scanner in amazement. Her temperature is stabilizing. Jake, I think it's working. But the mother wasn't out of danger yet. Ryan and Helen worked for hours, treating wounds, monitoring vital signs, making sure she stayed stable. Jake sat with her the whole time, talking to her softly, telling her she needed to live. The cub never left her side. Dawn came to Theta 7. The alien sun rose over the horizon, painting the sky in colors of purple and gold. The battle site was covered in razorback bodies. Some colonists had injuries, but miraculously no one had died. They had survived because the Panthers had fought with them. The mother finally opened her eyes fully. She looked at Jake and made a soft rumbling sound. It wasn't a roar. It was gentler, like a giant cat's purr. She was thanking him again. She turned her head to nuzzle her cub, who chirped happily and licked her face. Over the next several weeks, the colony transformed. The panther mother, who Jake started calling Luna's mother, and the cub stayed near the colony while she healed. The other 3 panthers came and went, bringing food for the mother and cub. They also brought more of the glowing fruits and more energy crystals. Commander Hayes set up a meeting area at the edge of the colony where humans and panthers could interact safely. Jake spent hours there every day. He slowly learned to communicate with the panthers using gestures and body language. He discovered that they were incredibly intelligent. They had their own society, their own families, their own territories deep in the forest. Helen studied them with scientific fascination. She learned that the panthers, which she officially named Luminari in her reports, had been fighting the razorbacks for generations. The razorbacks were slowly taking over their territory, killing their young, destroying their homes. The Luminari were losing a war they couldn't win alone. One evening, Luna's mother came to the meeting area. She sat across from Jake and looked at him with those intelligent golden eyes. Then she did something remarkable. She drew in the dirt with her claw. Simple pictures. A Luminari, a human, side by side. Then she drew both fighting razorbacks together. Jake understood. She was proposing an alliance. He called Commander Hayes to the meeting area. The commander looked at the drawings in the dirt. She looked at the magnificent creature sitting patiently, waiting for an answer. An alliance, Commander Hayes said slowly, between humans and an alien species. Do you really think it could work? Yes, Jake said without hesitation. They're people, Commander. Just different kinds of people. We help them with the razorbacks. They help us with food, medicine, and crystals. We both survive. We both thrive. Commander Hayes was quiet for a long moment. Then she knelt down and drew her own picture in the dirt. 2 hands shaking. The human symbol for agreement and friendship. Luna's mother touched her paw to the drawing. The first treaty between humans and aliens was made in dirt and hope. Commander Hayes sent a message to Earth that night. She told them everything that had happened. She told them about Jake feeding a hungry alien cub. She told them about the mother's gratitude and the battle against the razorbacks. She told them about the alliance. The response from Earth came a week later. At first, the authorities didn't believe it. Humanity had explored dozens of planets and never found intelligent alien life. But the commander sent videos and Helen sent her scientific data. Finally, Earth had to accept the truth. Jake Morrison, a grief-stricken xenobiologist who just wanted to help a suffering creature, had made first contact with an intelligent alien species. His simple act of kindness had changed humanity's place in the universe forever. 6 months passed. Colony Outpost Meridian grew and prospered. The Luminary and humans worked together to drive the razorbacks away from both their territories. Human engineers built weapons that could penetrate razorback armor. Luminary scouts used their knowledge of the forest to guide human patrols. Together, they were strong. More supply ships came from Earth, filled with scientists who wanted to study the Luminary. But Jake made sure they treated the Panthers with respect as equals, not as specimens. The Luminary weren't animals to be studied. They were friends, partners, family. Luna, the cub, grew bigger every day. She was still young, but already she was the size of a large dog. She spent most of her time with Jake, following him around the colony. The colonists got used to seeing the xenobiologist with an alien panther at his heels. Children played with Luna carefully, and she was always gentle with them. Luna's mother, fully healed now, became the bridge between the two species. She led her pack of Luminary in cooperation with the humans. She taught her people that humans could be trusted. She showed them that working together made everyone stronger. 1 year after Jake found the trapped cub, the colony held a celebration. They were officially renaming their settlement. It would no longer be called Colony Outpost Meridian. The new name, chosen by vote, was Unity, a place where two species lived and worked together in peace. Jake stood at the edge of the celebration, watching humans and Luminary interact. Children laughed as they played with cubs. Scientists talked with adult Luminary through their developing translation system. Engineers and Luminary worked together on building projects. It was beautiful. It was hope made real. Luna came and sat beside him, now almost as tall as his waist. Her mother followed and pressed her massive head against Jake's shoulder. It was a gesture she often made, showing affection and trust. Jake scratched behind her ears and she made that purring rumble he loved. "You know," Jake said to them, even though they couldn't understand all his words. "When I came to this planet, I thought I had lost everything worth living for. My family was gone. My heart was broken. I just wanted to forget," Luna chirped softly. Her mother listened with those wise golden eyes. "But you gave me something new," Jake continued. "A purpose. A family. Hope. All because I stopped to help someone who was hungry and alone. It's funny how the smallest choices can change everything." Commander Hayes walked over to join them. She smiled at the sight of Jake with his alien friends. "Earth wants you to come back," she said. "They want to interview you. Make you famous. The man who made first contact." "No thanks," Jake said. "My place is here with them, building something new." Hayes nodded. "I told them you'd say that. They're sending more people instead. Scientists, engineers, teachers. Unity is going to become the center of human Luminary relations, and Jake? They're putting you in charge of it all." Jake looked at her in surprise. "Me? I'm just a supply coordinator who feeds hungry animals." "No," Hayes said, putting a hand on his shoulder. "You're the person who saw another living being in pain and chose compassion over protocol.